Metcalf Station is a pleasant place. It orbits the rarer of the HIP 44811 system's 2 jewels, a glittering ammonia world. Silversea isn't habitable like the nearby Jade Hills, but it's a popular tourist spot, and Metcalf has a prime view. The habitat ring is just a small part of a very big station, though. There's this bar called the Smelter down in the industrial district. There's less greenery, and the gravity isn't as comfortable, but if you're looking for work, or you need to sell off the data pulled from a bunch of crashed survey probes that you've salvaged without the proper licenses, then the Smelter's the place to be. Just be careful what you order. Half the drinks they serve will kill you, unless a helpful patron offers to drain your gut through a bullet hole. I just made a killing when Pound tapped my shoulder, looking to do the same. He was all riled up over old business. A while back, he came across a shipment of coffee substitute from Anina that he didn't know what to do with, and I took it off his hands for a pittance. Well, I guess he finally found out that if you fly that stuff 150 light years away from home, it becomes a highly sought-after commodity. You can get almost 10 times buying price like I did. Somehow, Pound figured that his poor business sense meant that I owed him some credits. I respectfully disagreed, and he disrespectfully demanded that I draw my pistol. Now, I gotta say, I ain't much of a gunslinger, but I may or may not have been kicked out of one of the Federation's fancy engineering academies just short of graduation. And let me tell you, they do teach you some nifty tricks. Like uploading a virus to someone's Remlock suit computer, cause a feedback loop in his suit's neural interface nodes. He went down as if I just flooded his entire nervous system with electricity, which I had. I could have ended him right there. But I'm a nice guy. I even had the decency to tell him that the paralysis will wear off in time. Just like the twitching, probably. I figured it was time to leave. Station security will overlook a lot of what goes on in places like the Smelter, but drawn weapons is pushing it. But an old friend caught my eye and waved me aside. Meeks isn't the most pleasant of people. He's kind of slippery. But he always keeps his ear to the stars, and he gladly shares what he hears. Not for cheap, of course, but I've never known his tips to be bad, and he always seems to be the first to have them. How he got wind of this one, I'll never know. A few hours later, I was out in the outskirts of the Muthi system, sifting through the debris of the independent mining vessel Naugrim. Small rock cracker, crew of 7, typically sold ore to the Dukes of Muthi. Yet, here it was, nowhere near any resource extraction zone or shipping lane, and utterly destroyed. Hard to say what hit it, but that's not really why I was there anyway. Raw ore can be easy money if you know who to sell it to, and I was happily scooping away when a blip appeared on my radar. It was an escape pod, well away from the remains of the ship. One of the 7 crew members and rightful owner of my salvage. I could have just left the pod where I found it, but like I said, I'm a nice guy. It's gotten me into trouble in the past. Plus, the pod itself is worth quite a bit more than some chunks of ore. The pod's occupant was in cryo, but even through the frost covering the viewport I could tell this was no grubby miner. It was a girl, and she looked too young to be sailing the stars. Bianca, she said her name was, once I thought her out. Wouldn't say who she was, or what she was doing out there, but she clearly wasn't sightseeing. She had hardly gotten the icicles out of her hair before she asked me to fly her across the Imperial border. Now, I'm no stranger to carrying hot cargo past border patrols, but I don't do it for free. What she gave me wasn't nearly enough, but she promised she'd have credits for me on the other side. I don't usually accept words as payment, but I figured I'd play along, see what it got me. The Heron doesn't look like much, but that's the point. She's an old Lakon Type 6 transporter. I use her to run cargo and passengers from one end of the bubble to the other, when I'm not out boldly going where no one has gone before. At least, that's what Aiden Nathan Coffey and the other bigwigs in the HIP 44811 Values Party think when they handle my bio-waste hauling contracts. In truth, I also do a fair bit of less reputable work. Smuggling, illegal salvage, things like that. My Heron's perfect for that type of work. A run-of-the-mill hauler, dull blue paint flaking off her, kind of ship no one bothers to look twice at. Of course, I've worked her over to the full extent of my almost complete engineering degree. Military-grade hull reinforcement, I've sacrificed cargo space for a shield generator, I'm constantly tinkering with the FS drive to squeeze a better jump range out of her. And I'm not saying she's a combat vessel, but the missile rack gives her a fiercer bite than you'd expect from her. Plenty of pirates have regretted interdicting me. Bounty vouchers aren't a big part of my income, but it's a satisfying one. So, despite a federal patrol or two, the trip was going very well, until the girl decided she wanted to take a detour. She gave me the coordinates to one of those unnamed coal sector something systems, completely devoid of life. We set down on a barren rock moon and rolled out the Scarab SRV. Nice view of the gas giant we were orbiting, but that's about it. Just rocks and sand and ice, like every other planetoid too small to hold an atmosphere. Still, it's nice to set foot on a planet every now and then. Like most ship commanders, I usually spend so much time in the pilot's seat that I sometimes begin to wonder if my legs still work. After about an hour of making snaking tire tracks in dust that'll be there forever, we crested a ridge and looked down on an abandoned outpost of some kind. Probably an old prospecting operation. Ghost town. I've come across more than a few places like that in my day. Failed colonies and derelict ships and whatnot. And I'm not superstitious, I feel fun. It's eerie. I almost hesitated to follow when Bianca stepped through the door. It was like a gaping black mouth. No lights flickered to life. The place had been dead for decades. But a Remlock suit is a marvelous thing, with sensors and low-G maneuvering micro-thrusters, and even a light or two. I found the girl kneeling by the back wall, pulling a panel loose and dragging a crate onto the dusty floor. A standard-issue Federal Navy cargo crate. The sort of thing that makes my skin tingle. From the risk or the opportunity, I can never tell. See, there's an ancient lust that awakens in a man at the sight of gold, even if it's stamped with the Federal insignia. Even today, when credits are digital and gravity is artificial, the weight of it makes the hand tremble. I heard that lust through the crackle of the comm when the girl offered me half the treasure for her passage, and meant not a word of it. I'd all but forgotten the grave air of that airless grave when the ghost appeared out of thin light. A hologram of a handsome rogue in the center of the room. The girl must have tripped some trap. The ghost spoke to her, accusing her of murdering him to keep the loot to herself. Fair enough. I would have done the same. And if I was the one suspecting my partner of plotting to murder me, I would have left a swarm of security drones to guard the prize too. I typically prefer to avoid a fight, but I come prepared. The girl, and more importantly the gold, they depended on me for protection, so fight I did. I told you I'm no marksman, but in this fight I had help. Not a lot of people have the know-how to pull the brains out of a busted Taipan fighter and convert them into a combat autopilot for a Scarab SRV. Which means not a lot of people, or drones, expect to be fired upon by an unmanned crawler, which comes in handy. Still, we barely made it out alive. I was already starting to think my fee needed renegotiating when the huntsman interdicted us. Snazzy ship, the Fer de Lance. Snazzy, and unfortunately deadly in a fight. She caught us in one of the last Federation systems before entering Lavigny Duval's domain, and demanded I turn over the girl and the gold. I recognized the handsome ghost from the planet, not so dead after all. The girl begged me not to give in. She could have saved her breath. I doubt the commander of the Huntsmen would pay me in anything other than multi-cannon fire for my trouble. So I figured I'd take that fire, keep the gold, let him deal with the trouble. I told you the Heron will surprise you. I'm sure she surprised the Huntsman. But for all my upgrades and modifications, we were limping badly when the cavalry finally showed up. 2 Federal Corvettes on patrol. The girl seemed surprised that they turned on our aggressor, let us go without even scanning us. Guess she didn't know that the feds occasionally like to outsource their unsavory operations to unsavory characters such as myself. Holding the honorary rank of Chief Petty Officer in the Federal Navy Auxiliary does have its perks. We docked at a small refinery station in Gibbio, the first system on the Imperial side of the border. From there, the girl could easily find some other ship to take her wherever she wanted to go. Before dividing the gold, she leaned in to plant a kiss on me by way of thanks. Might have been nice, pretty girl and all, but I prefer not to be in physical contact with a person when I shock her. She did seem shocked. Not as shocked as I wasn't when her pistol clattered on the floor before her pretty skull did. She went down as if I'd just outsmarted her, which I had. But I'm a nice guy. I had the decency to tell her that the paralysis will eventually wear off. And how lucky she is I only kept my half of the gold.